Obstruction is a created fiction. The President of the United States did not obstruct. How can you obstruct when there's no underlying crime? Everything they're talking about that he did, this is an innocent man defending himself. If I'm accused of robbing a bank and I didn't do it, and I was with my friend the night that it happened, and I tweet out and I write to my friend and I say, please tell them the truth. And if you don't, you're a rat because you're lying. That's an innocent man defending himself. That is not a corrupt intent.
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, as we continue to learn more and more about what they did, and we have the former director of the FBI claiming that surveillance is not spying, we have to ask the question, how far are they willing to go to keep this all from coming out as President Trump signs a very special executive order dealing with a catastrophe that could happen here in America? You guys are going to want to stick around and watch to see the latest news. Hi, I'm Craig and welcome to Just Informed Talk. I always like to start by saying thank you to everyone who's hit that subscribe button. If you haven't, please come here to the landing page, click the big red subscribe button, and make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you get notified when these videos get posted, and hit that like button, a little thumbs up if you guys like this content and want to see more. So here's where we left off with the Q post. We left off at Q post 3312, and there hasn't been any new ones yet, but we are still waiting. And I suspect more on the way very, very soon. You guys are going to want to keep checking on that, and I'll keep you guys updated as soon as they come in. But before we go into all the news stories, you guys are going to stick around. We have a bunch of news we're going to get through here in this video that you guys are going to want to pay attention to. I'd like to always start by saying also, if you guys want to come back here and get caught up with the latest Q posts, I encourage you to come back here, watch these last few videos, and don't forget to come here and watch this video. If you're scratching and going, what is QAnon and what's this guy talking about? You need to come watch this video. What is QAnon, the Great Awakening? It'll give you all the information you need about QAnon, the Great Awakening, how to get involved, where to find the information, how to research, all that kind of stuff. You guys, that's a great tool for you to use. So, jumping into the first news story, Matt Gaetz filing the Pencil Act. Yes, he called it the Pencil Act. And it seems to be a massive troll, as it says here on Breitbart, of Adam Schiff, who was called pencil-necked by the President of the United States. And we all know him so affectionately as Little Adam Schiff for his incredibly weird proclivities toward very disturbing things. And we have all this weird stuff that goes with that. But then at the same time, this is an act that was passed. Now, it's actually an acronym. And the pencil stands for Preventing Extreme Negligence with Classified Information Licenses. But it also appears to be the latest nickname for Little Pencil-Neck Schiff. Yeah. Anyway, this is kind of summing it up right here. These are the quotes from Gaetz, I believe, where it says, calling out Adam Schiff for what he's doing, it says, as a member of the Gang of Eight, Representative Schiff is responsible for characterizing critical and sensitive intelligence information for other members of Congress and the American people. For 2 years, Representative Schiff falsely claimed there was clear evidence on the issue of collusion and falsely claimed the Trump campaign accepted help from the Russian government to win the presidency. Representative Schiff cannot be trusted by his colleagues in Congress or the American people, and therefore must be removed from the House Intelligence Committee and stripped of his security clearance. I couldn't agree more. And anybody who would object, whether you're left, right, I mean, just look back at the documentable evidence of Adam Schiff making these false claims, and then obviously being the one who's being implicated by a lot of members of Congress as the one who was leaking classified information. As Donald Trump Jr. said, he's in there testifying in a closed-door setting on Capitol Hill with the Intelligence Committee, and he goes until like 7 o'clock at night. He says he leaves the meeting and turns on CNN, and there you have quotes from him at 12 o'clock at lunchtime that same day from a closed-door hearing, which is supposed to be classified. So that's just one example of many, many examples. Here's another important point to look at, and this is the full text of Gaetz' resolution. But if you just scroll down to the bottom, it kind of summarizes it perfectly right here. It says, sense of the House of Representatives. It is the sense of the House of Representatives that Congressman Adam Schiff should be removed from the Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence of the House, and that his security clearance should be revoked immediately. So that's that story. Now, this is a clip. So you guys saw that clip we played of Rudy Giuliani in the beginning. I want to play this full Fox News clip where Rudy Giuliani is basically explaining everything, exactly like we explain it here on the channel, but with even greater detail and going into some of the really specifics, the real specific parts of what is happening as far as them going after President Trump for obstruction, even though there was no collusion. So there was no crime, but somehow President Trump's guilty of obstructing justice, but there was no crime. It just doesn't make sense to me. I kind of want to play this clip for you in its entirety, so I hope you guys enjoy.
Come at any time. It will drop amid bombshell claims by the Attorney General himself that Obama-era officials spied on the Trump camp, claims that several Democrats have denied, including former Obama officials denying it, like former FBI Chief James Comey.
When I hear that kind of language used, it's concerning because the FBI and the Department of Justice conduct court-ordered electronic surveillance.
Yeah, it should be concerning. I'm sorry, I'm going to break in here because the way he said, we already talked about this in a previous video, but this clip has even more that we didn't cover, which I want to show you. So, yeah, it should be concerning to you. You see how his voice, the inflection to his voice goes up by about a whole octave? That, to me, sounds like somebody who's really scared and really contemplating his own guilt. Let's go on.
I have never thought of that as spying. If the Attorney General has come to the belief that that should be called spying, wow, that's going to require a whole lot of conversations inside the Department of Justice. But I don't know what he meant by that.
But I don't know what he meant by that. But wow, that's the behavior of a man who is genuinely shocked by the fact that he is going to be criminally indicted, possibly for not only lying to Congress but then lying to the FISA courts. So. Yeah, that's what that is. So going into this clip, I don't want to get to a specific part of it before we go forward. I just want to show you that first part, and then I want to show you this specific part that we're going to watch here. So here, I'll pull it up.
So what is he hiding?
He's hiding the fact that he probably perjured himself with regard to the Pfizer applications. He's certainly engaged in a word he loves, gross negligence. He presented an application to the FISA court where he has a special obligation to tell the other side of the story because it's never told. And I helped create the FISA court, so I think I probably understand it maybe a little better than he does. And I sure understand the obligations you have better than he does.
So what is your reaction?
So he presented the Steele dossier as if it was a piece of intelligence. It wasn't a piece of intelligence, Ed. It was a piece of garbage. I've read intelligence documents. You go through the first 3 pages. This is something that should be, read in some dirty club or something. And it's really ridiculous. And then he never did anything to corroborate it.
Yeah.
He said it's unverified. He's the director of the FBI. He's supposed to verify it, Jim. You got to verify it. Here's what you could verify. You could have asked Steele, when is the last time you were in Russia? He'd have told you 9 years ago. Or you could have looked at his passport documents.
Sure. So
that might have raised a question about whether it was phony or not. Or there's a specific allegation that Michael Cohen was in Prague on a particular date. I can't imagine FBI agents on their own not checking out with the passport office. Let's see if we can verify this little piece of information with this highly questionable document.
So, Mr.
So that in and of itself basically breaks down everything you need to know about what Director Comey did and did not do, and his complete gross negligence. Instead of, it's not extreme carelessness, it's gross negligence. Let's be honest, as playing the semantics of words as he would. But you guys can see here, Giuliani's laying it all out, step by step by step. There was no attempt to verify this ridiculous piece of intelligence that was used to basically frame the president and people around him to go after his campaign to illegally abuse our FISA surveillance system and spy on political opposition. This is not how this FISA court was ever intended to be used, and it's a complete miscarriage of justice to allow this to happen and then to turn around in the same breath and try to accuse the president of obstructing justice. It's, as I've said before, it's completely and utterly asinine. So, and here's another clip. I want to get Giuliani's take on Representative Omar's comments, because I can't tell you how sickened I am by her comments, but I want to hear what Mayor Giuliani has to say. So if you guys watch this.
Mr. Mayor, I've got very short time. What do you think about Congresswoman Omar and what she said about 9/11?
She's a disgrace. I mean, how can I not feel that way?
Yep, couldn't agree more. She's a disgrace. Moving on. Next one here. So this is a story that's coming out now about the big caravan that's coming out of South or Central America from the Guatemalan border of southern Mexico, where apparently a group of hundreds of migrants have basically broke the lock and broke the gate and just marched right into Mexico. And I wonder where they're heading. I'm sure they're going to claim asylum in Mexico, right? Because Mexico's obviously much better off than Guatemala. No. They're coming to our border. But President Trump somehow has just landed an incredible win in the Supreme Court, where this Ninth Circuit has actually, the Court of Appeals there, the Ninth Circus, as I like to call it, has ruled to uphold the Trump administration's policy on making asylum seekers wait for their court hearings in Mexico, as opposed to the United States, which is a huge deal. If you go on to read through it, it talks about how the Ninth Circuit basically temporarily lifted an order suspending the migrant protection protocols, a Trump administration policy that requires Central American asylum seekers to remain in Mexico before their appearance in immigration court, though the Friday evening stay is not indicative of the government's future prospects in its case. It was a rare victory for the administration. So not quite a full victory yet, guys, but we got to take these little wins and work with them. And this story just came out today, I believe. So yeah, I just thought I'd bring that to your attention, not to mention the fact that President Trump has weighed in and said, well, hey, why don't we send all of the migrants who come into the country illegally, the illegal immigrants, why don't we send them to the sanctuary cities, right? Why are we putting them in rural, conservative areas when we could put them in the liberal bastions that they've created for themselves, little liberal enclaves that they have where they want to love and accept and bring in everyone from the world and give them all their money and all their entitlements and all of the things that they want, right? Because they're going to live in their little utopia. Well, Democrats are freaking out, calling it dumping, calling it this, calling it that. It's so ridiculous to see the hypocrisy when you actually present these Democrats with this completely valid argument for, okay, well, if you guys want illegal immigrants in the country so bad, why don't you pay for them in your little sanctuary cities? How about California, your little sanctuary state? See, the real problem is why the Democrats are freaking out so badly is quite obvious to me. And it's basically because those sanctuary cities are already liberal. They're already deep blue. They don't need more people voting blue in those cities. They have to put those illegal immigrants who are possibly going to end up voting and influencing elections into the conservative rural areas, into cities that are not deep blue, because they need to change the demographics so that they can steal the 2020 election. I'm just saying it flat out. So that's why they're freaking out. And I think it's hilarious that President Trump just completely flipped the script on him and said, hey, all right, well, since the law is so bad that we can't keep these people from coming in here, why don't we just start busing them in to all your little sanctuary cities in Sacramento, and we'll bus them into Santa Fe, and we'll bus them in to California, the whole state basically. Yeah, you guys can have fun with that. I hope you enjoy, right? So, yeah. Now, getting to kind of what I really wanted to talk to you guys about this video, I was basically looking at a story that's coming out, and I want to talk about Ilhan Omar for a second. So you have this whole movement now of people, Nancy Pelosi saying the memory of 9/11 is sacred ground, and any discussion of it must be done with reverence. The president shouldn't use the painful images of 9/11 for a political attack. Nancy, why are you such a hypocrite? Like, do you really, have you drank yourself silly? Have you such an alcoholic that you've literally destroyed every brain cell in your mind so that you can't see the hypocrisy of what you've just stated? She just said 9/11 is a sacred ground and any discussion of it must be done with reverence. Does that apply to Ilhan Omar too when she says that some people did something that day and doesn't even know when CARE was created? Does it? I mean, that's a serious question. The hypocrisy of the left knows no bounds. And as I've said before, their lack of self-awareness. They don't understand. It's like they live in this bubble where it's just like fried brains with no ability to formulate ideas and to do anything like remotely effective when it comes to governance. But this actually goes to what is happening with her. She's actually in Germany right now. Now, guess who was just in Germany? Barack Obama. And then guess who shows up a week after? Oh, of course it's Nancy Pelosi, and they're all meeting their little comrade Merkel to have discussions and meetings about who knows what. And I'm not sure if there's anything on the books with Nancy Pelosi meeting with Merkel, but I can tell you this right now: it's no coincidence that they're in going to Germany. Now, this kind of dovetails into something that I wanted to talk about. Now, we've had all this discussion about 9/11 and Omar making these crazy comments, which to me are sick and they're anti-American. They completely are just antithetical to what our country stands for in its entirety, I think. And I think most Americans would agree on that you can't casually dismiss the loss of thousands of lives from one of the world's largest terrorist attacks, and then at the same time talk about how there's just all these videos of her saying these crazy things, not to mention the fact if you look at the history where there's allegations that she actually married her brother to help somebody get in the U.S. legally. And it's just, I don't even know what to say. It's literally, you sit there and you look at the TV and you're like, this can't be real. I feel like I'm living in some kind of movie, some dystopian Orwellian novel that's been made into a live action movie where you have just psychopaths running certain parts of government. And just, okay, fine, right? That's great. So this is what it comes to. President Trump just today apparently signed this ambitious, as it's called here, electromagnetic preparedness or electromagnetic pulse preparedness executive order. Now, what's an electromagnetic pulse? Well, that is when you have any type of nuclear bomb that goes off can generate an EMP. And an EMP is basically a wave, an invisible wave that goes out, and it can fry all small electronics, any kind of circuitry, anything that's basically relies on circuits or circuit boards, and it can be devastating to the power grid. It could basically knock us back to the Stone Age overnight. And that, to me, is what's most concerning as far as threats go. And we just have to be very aware and aware of what's going on, right? But this plan actually is, I think it's a 4-year plan to basically harden the power grid against this. Now, I know we've been doing stuff in the past to try to harden certain things, and I know people who are working in certain industries, especially fossil fuel industries, who are actively looking at hardening, infrastructure, because you have to understand that if we get hit with an EMP, right, it would knock out things that you wouldn't even think about, like, oh, well, you couldn't get oil and gas because there's pumps out there, and the pumps have to be hardened against it because they run on circuitry that is a part of a broad network that's like interconnected so that you can monitor in real time from a headquarters. And trust me, I know this firsthand. I have somebody who's very close to me working in that area. And the funny thing is, though, when you look at this, it just reminds me of what these sick people are willing to do to cover up their crimes. There are things that have been done in the past that we can look back on and say, obviously, they weren't real. Operation Northwoods, for instance, which never happened, but it was a plan that existed, which I guess ultimately nobody likes to talk about too much, but if you want to look that up, you should. Also, the Gulf of Tonkin incident. There's many examples, but my biggest concern right now is basically if President Trump's putting this out and President Trump's tweeting about 9/11 and we're getting these executive orders about electromagnetic pulses, I really think we should be careful. And there's some things you guys can do to go harden your own infrastructure, your own house, and your own things. It's like little things you can do. Like I think they sell like Faraday cages, which can block out the pulse, so you can get hardened electronics. Whatever you think, that's kind of up to you. I'm not trying to push people into doing that. although that's a part of being prepared, right? But you have to look at this and think to yourself, what in the world is going on? Especially when you look at the sick people out there. This is their idea of jokes, right? So Facebook apparently accidentally put hidden messages inside their VR controllers, right? And they said things like, Big Brother is watching you, or is watching. The Masons were here. And other really sick, disturbing things. If you actually read the tweet from the head of the co-founder of Oculus over at Facebook, who's working on VR there, it says, unfortunately, some Easter egg labels meant for prototypes accidentally made it onto the internal hardware for tens of thousands of touch controllers. Oh, they only said things like, this space for rent, and the Masons were here, and a few development kits shipped with. Big Brother is watching, and hi fix it, we see you. Yeah. You don't think these people are evil? They call them Easter eggs. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me, this is like a PR thing. So you guys remember, you've heard those stories about people going to Walmart and buying like a backpack or a coloring book or something and finding a note written in Chinese stuffed in it that says like, help me, I'm in a slave factory. Please help me, send help. They won't let me leave. I hate to laugh at that. It's disturbing. It's awful, but it's crazy. But anyway, that's what this reminds me of. Like, these people put these messages in here as like, please help us. Like, here's the information. Big Brother's watching you. There's all these Masons here. I mean, like, that's what it reminds me of. That's the first way I read that story, and I thought, wow, I should probably just share that with you guys. Now, another little bit of news here. General Flynn, his Twitter background has changed. Now, remember, we haven't had a tweet from him since December of 2017. But we've had these picture changes. And now the waves are coming in. Well, that's kind of symbolic for what's happening. We're getting wave after wave after wave of information that's exposing these corrupt individuals and their corrupt actions. And thank you, General Flynn, for your service. We Patriots will stand behind you always. Now, here's one I'm going to leave you with. Our good friends over at the NSA seem to have a very good sense of humor when it comes to all of the cryptological jokes that can be made here. But here's their latest tweet, or one of their latest tweets, I presume it's from yesterday, where it talks about this Diane Janicek, who received the Cyber Warrior Woman of the Year Award for the Cybersecurity Association of Maryland. Now, what's interesting here is this. There's a giant Q right behind her head, which I thought was very interesting. And it seems like she's kind of covering up, and so there's only one eye you can see. And then people are talking about Julian Assange and that wink that we looked at in the last episode. It was kind of like a left eye thing. And I think somebody even said they could see a frog somewhere in here. But yeah, I just thought that was a good little wink and a nod, guys. The Queen of, is that clubs? Yeah, Queen of Clubs. All right, so you guys know that's where we're at in this whole story. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I want to say thank you guys for joining me here. A few things before we go. First of all, the best way you can help other channels is to come here, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications. And if you guys like this content, want to see more, hit the like button, the little thumbs up at the bottom of this video. Also, leave your thoughts, theories, and insights in the comments below. I want to hear what you have to think and say about all of this stuff. So definitely go do that and watch these videos and share them on your social media. A few other ways you can help out the channel. Come over here to Twitter. Find me at JustinFormU on Twitter. And you guys can connect with me. We can have our tweets. I like this because it's a great way for me to reach out and talk to you guys, the audience. So I really appreciate you guys going and checking that out. Also, don't forget to come over here and check out justinformnews.com, the official website for Just Informed Talk, where you get all the links to different Q stuff, you get links to different news websites, you get live news feeds with breaking news, and you get all of the videos right here from the channel. A couple other ways you can help out are both financial. You can come over here and find me on Patreon, patreon.com. It's a crowdfunding website. You just come here, there'll be a link in the description, click this button to become a patron. When you do that, it's a monthly donation. You set it and forget it. You know, you're helping create content, and I could not do this without you guys. So thank you from the bottom of my heart to everybody who supports this channel. Without you guys, it would not be possible, and I wouldn't be able to do this. I have a GoFundMe set up. If you want to make a one-time or an anonymous donation, that's there for you as well. So just go ahead and check out either one of those if you guys want to help the content here. Because look, between what happens with demonetization, copyright, and they take your monetization through copyrights and all this crazy stuff on YouTube, and then the way they game the algorithms, they game the numbers. I depend on you guys for the support because there's nothing reliable with YouTube. It's basically, it's like rolling the dice every video, and there's no rhyme or reason to the demonetization process. It's basically just a complete subjectively biased system where it's targeting creators, in my opinion, like myself and others, and making it impossible for us to really see the full potential of what our videos could reach, the views and the people we could reach, the audience, because it's all being gamed behind the scenes. And this is how I'm able to do this and keep going is with your support. So thank you so much for that, and I really appreciate it. So before we go, we do a segment at the end of each episode called God's Grace is Greater, where we talk about God's grace and how it is truly greater. And for this segment, I want to take a piece of scripture that I think we've talked about before, but it's a really important one. And it always stands out to me about how we should treat one another. And it's from the book of James, and it's chapter 5, verse 19 and 20. And I just want to share this with you. It says, "My brothers, if any among you strays from the truth, and someone turns him back, he should know that whoever turns a sinner from the error of his way will save his life from death and cover a multitude of sins." So what I want to talk about is, I'm not good at that. I try every day. I mean, I do everything I can every day because I'm an evangelist and I'm called to bring people to Christ. But I'm just as guilty as everyone else of being angry at people, being angry at evil, being angry at hypocrisy, being angry at lies. But what I have to remind myself every day, which is one of the hardest things, is that I need to be trying to pull these people back to God. As evil as some of them are, I know that some of them will never come back to God. And you could even say maybe most of the people who are involved in some of these really evil things that we cover here, but that doesn't mean we're not called to try. And that doesn't mean that we're not called to do everything we can to turn a sinner from the error of their ways. So, I don't know. I just wanted to share that because I think it's really easy for us to get cynical, and I know for myself it is, and to see the world in a negative light and to let those feelings of anger and just disdain, kind of take over you when you see people who make these evil statements and people who do these evil things and just people who abuse others, and it's just sick. But we're called to bring those people back. And even though we can't save them all, that is our calling. And when we do that, we cover a multitude of sins. And it helps us in our eternal salvation as well. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit that like button if you guys want to see more of this content. That's going to be it for me. I want to say thanks for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.